Welcome to the third episode of this series, Fresh Hope for Tea Farmers, as by the new KTDA, or call it a fresh KTDA. In the first episode of this series, we showcased the structure and ownership of KTDA. In the second episode, we traced the journey of tea from the farm to the factory. And in this episode, we pick up the value chain from the factory to the consumer. What are the factors that determine price? Welcome, I'm Alex Chamwada. Kenya Tea Development Agency is a global leader in quality teas. The company is responsible for about 60% of tea produced in Kenya. Remember, KTDA serves over 650,000 smallholder tea farmers who are shareholders to 54 tea companies that own KTDA Group Holdings and its 8 subsidiary companies. The private tea agency has presence in 16 counties in Kenya. Before we delve into the dynamics that determine the price of tea, it is worth noting that there are 71 tea factories that process the tea produced by the farmers who are served by KTDA, and that one of the subsidiaries, known as KTDA Management Services, is responsible for managing the factories.
They provide now management services which the farmers, of course, have no skills on that. The quality of the tea, the marketing of the tea. Because if you can imagine, if all the 54 factories were to go and market tea, which is an international product, the cost will be too huge to benefit the farmers. So through that aggregation, we are able to save a lot for the farmers.
KTDA, like other producers, market their tea mainly through the Mombasa Tea Auction, which is the largest auction of black tea in the world. The auction is managed by the East African Tea Trade Association, commonly known as IATA.
We have producer members, they're the ones who offer the tea, they grow the tea and bring it to the auction. Like KTDA is one of our producer members. And then we have buyers, they buy the tea from the auction. Then we have the brokers who are intermediaries between the producer and the buyer. So they offer the tea in the auction on behalf of the producers. Then we have the warehouses, they handle the tea and also provide logistic services around the tea. And then we have the packers who break the bulk and they sell tea in retail. So currently we have a membership of about 273 member organization.
KTDA is an active participant in the Mombasa Tea Auction. You are able to see tea as it's being sold on real time. We support it so much because it's a transparent way of ensuring that our tea fetches the highest price because it's based on bidding.
The Mombasa auction takes place every week, and KTDA allocates teas for sale to brokers ahead of the auction to sell on its behalf.
We go through a process of checking how much tea is available for sale from each factory every Wednesday. Then we are able to allocate a given amount based on our forecast of the market. We look at a number of fundamentals and then we determine how much quantity of tea we can put in the catalog. Once we have determined that, we have a computer program that then calculates and allocates each grade of tea per factory to each broker. And every factory has 2 brokers who are selling the teas on behalf of the factory in the auction. So we try to allocate on a 50-50 basis for each grade and for all the quantity of tea that is being allocated in the auction.
The next step is what is known as the printing program.
So the printing program is now the totality of the teas from our factories that we are giving for the auction 3 weeks to come. So we give that to the tea brokers usually on Thursdays before noon. It is a timeline that is put so that we observe the cycle. Once we do that, there is a tea sample for each tea. As the tea is being consigned to the warehouse, there is also a sample that has been packed alongside it, a 4-kilogram sample for each lot of tea. That sample is in the warehouse as well. So once we give that printing program, we give it to the broker, we give it to the warehouse, and the warehouse draws those samples and takes them to the broker based on the allocation of tea that the broker has. So if he has 20 invoices, he'll get the 20 samples from those 20 invoices. So all the brokers will be able to get that latest Monday. Then the brokers now will also distribute those samples to the buyers who are registered in the tea auction in Mombasa.
The buyers who are coming to the auction will taste the tea, and the broker who is selling the tea will have tasted the tea. And he will also give a feedback to the producer who have produced that tea. So at the end of the day, as we all assemble for the auction, everybody has tasted the teas, and by the time they are coming to the auction, they know exactly what they want from the testing they have done. When the teas come in up for sale, every buyer is able to see the tea that is up for sale. Remotely, wherever they are, they will be able to place their bid. That is, let's say a tea has a value of $2, and you have got a bid of $1.90. So you'll be able to put your bid. I can see the 190. That, so if I'm a broker, I will not maybe take that, because like today we can see where the market is. We've been running the analysis of what has happened within that auction. Then when that buyer bid, the others can also be able to see the bids that are coming in. So they will bid higher than that.
The highest bidder gets the tea. Once he will get an invoice from the broker who sold to him the tea. From there, he'll go to the bank, make payment, return the payment documents from the bank to the broker, and the broker will process for him what we call a delivery order to take to the warehouse and enable him collect the teas that he bought. They have a period of time within which to collect teas from the warehouse, but they have 14 days to make payments of the teas they have bought in the auction. It's called the prompt period, 14 calendar days or 10 working days. After 14 days, there's a penalty to it. This money is paid into an account that distributes the monies, payment to the broker, payment to the warehouse, and the net goes to the factory.
We transitioned from the open outcry system to an automated system, christened ITTS. Out of this system, they are able to analyze the trends in the market, make forecasts, and be able to analyze the demand scenarios.
And you can actually even be able to trace the progression of the bids that the buyers gave. We have what I would call a very easy traceability on the price that is realized for any particular tea.
So what factors determine the price of tea?
The price is determined by demand and supply, and of course the quality of the tea. So if you have 10 kilos of tea and you have a demand for 50 kilos of tea, then the highest bidder will get those 10 kilos. But if you have 50 kilos and only demand is for 10, then obviously there is more to choose from than the demand is there. So the price is likely to be lower than when it's the other way around.
When you come in this auction, you notice that we have teas that cannot even make $1 per kilo of tea that is sold in the auction. And we have teas that are currently at this market doing maybe about $4 or so. So you look at that price parity from less than $1 to about $4, what qualifies the same? It is the quality of the product that you present.
Now the quality of the tea is determined by a number of factors. First and foremost is the cultivar or the clone of the tea that has been planted. We have some varieties of teas that are by nature not as high quality as others. Number two is the agronomic practices in the farm. How have the farms been tended? What are the plucking standards? How often are the plucking cycles? The shorter the plucking cycle of what we call the 2 leaves and a bud, the better the quality of that tea.
The other aspect is the post-harvest handling of the leaf.
The best quality of tea is when leaf is plucked and preserved in a certain manner where it is aerated so that it doesn't build up heat. Of course, immediately after plucking, chemical reactions start taking place in the leaf inside, and out of that, it generates heat, and there is a temperature regime within which that chemical reaction should take place.
Then there is weather and climatic conditions, as well as soil contents and altitude.
In Kenya, of course, most of our leaf is grown between 1,500 and I think the highest is about 2,200 meters above sea level. If you go to other countries like Rwanda, you'll find teas growing above that altitude, and you'll find that those teas are naturally endowed with more desirable characters than the ones on the lower altitude. All said and done though, the quality of the tea is best or worst depending on the buyer who is buying. So I might say that one particular sample of tea is very bad, but somebody else might come and say, this is the kind of tea I'm looking for. We are looking at several factors. One of them is the color, and it is supposed to be golden yellow, or we call it a mellowed cup. Then we are also looking at the thickness. The thicker the cup, the better. Then we are looking at, we also call it the body. The body now is a combination of the color, the thickness, and the general appearance.
In the global tea market, statistics indicate that Kenya is the largest exporter of black tea, but it is not the largest producer. While China and India are the largest producers of tea in the world, they consume almost all of their tea.
What we consume here is 5%. Out of our total production, 95% is exported, 5% is consumed locally. And that is offered through the packers and also the producers through their factory gate sales.
The biggest buyer of KTDA tea is Pakistan. And indeed, Pakistan is the biggest buyer of black tea in the world. Pakistan is followed by the UK, then it is followed by Egypt, it's followed by UAE, there is Yemen, and there is Afghanistan. All in all, about 80-85% of our teas end up in about 13 markets. The rest, 15% or so, in other global destinations.
Well, Kenyan tea is the best tea, and it is one of the most invigorating experiences in the morning when you have a nice, hot, fresh cup of Kenyan tea in Kenya.
The reason why majority of our teas are exported, of course, is because we consume very little. If you go to these countries where they are taking a lot of tea, like in Pakistan, they are consuming a lot of tea per capita consumption. In Kenya, it's less than half, 0.5 per capita consumption.
Hence, the need for a campaign to encourage Kenyans to improve on their consumption of tea. And one of the most commonly asked questions is whether the tea exported is of better quality than the tea consumed locally.
What the factory is selling at the door here, there is no difference between that tea and what they are packing for taking to Mombasa. If you go to Mombasa, the people who are buying tea in the auction, they are local packers who are buying tea in the auction to pack for local distribution. So it is the same tea.
Locally, Kenya Tea Packers, commonly known as KTDA, is the leading tea blending and packaging company with over 50 products including black tea, flavored tea, green tea, purple tea, white tea, and herbal infusions. KTDA is a subsidiary of KTDA.
We also give returns to the shareholders, who are the farmers, through the dividends that are paid through the Kenya Tea Development Agency. And these dividends are increased returns to the farmer that have come from our operations as KTDA.
Indeed, the dynamics in the sale and marketing of tea are many, and when it comes to payment to farmers, this is what happens.
When the tea is sold, the system is such that that money goes directly into the factory account, and the factory then is able to determine how much to pay to the farmer on a monthly basis, semi-annual basis, and annual basis, based on the costs of operations and the revenue thereof, and of course the volume of leaf that was collected.
With the reforms that came, we have now gotten even better, paying farmers much earlier, paying them better. We have grown from the days during the authority when the farmer was getting 5 shillings. Today he's getting 20 shillings for his kilo of tea every month. I would say that I have a happier farmer today than the one of yesterday.
Mapato imeongezeka maana pesa sasa imekuja juu. Imetusaidia hata kwa kusomesha watoto, imekuwa rahisi. Hata kuomba, kufanya hata table banking. Tumepata matumaini maana hata tu kwa tukipata kilo ile mzuri.
Indeed, there is fresh hope for tea farmers, and KTDA leadership is promising to continue implementing reforms aimed at enhancing efficiency in the entire value chain in order to ensure the farmer is happy.
We want to encourage our farmers and tell them that the future looks great. We have worked in our institution reforms, and we will ensure that farmers are able to get more. We will be their ambassador, we will be there listening to them, and we look forward to ensure that we continue performing better and supporting our farmers, ending poverty, and also ensuring we contribute in the growth of our country.
Great. On that note, we come to the end of episode 3 of this series, Fresh Hope for Tea Farmers by the new KTDA. Join us next week for the final episode of this series, and we will be looking at KTDA's corporate social responsibility. Many thanks for watching.